Hey, welcome back to another episode of Go FUD Yourself. It's the Monday weekend news roundup. So we're going to cover all the crazy important shit that came up over the weekend, or just stuff that people were talking about that's not that important. I don't know. Today, we have a special guest over there, Lindsay from Tashi Finance. How you doing?
Hey, I'm good. Thanks for having me, JD.
You're welcome. I love
Super
the
pumped.
I love the view in your background, even though I know it's fake. Still awesome.
Still
Anyways,
stuck in a basement over here at Tashi, so
yeah, right. So we're obviously in America today. It's Memorial Day, so not a whole lot of people are participating. In Canada, it's a holiday too, I think, isn't it? Or
it was
something?
last Monday. Yeah, for us. So not this Monday,
Okay.
but
Well, Kara's not here because I don't know why, but she had some family thing or something, I think. So anyways, excited to have you here. Normally we have one of your co-founders. Yeah, Christine. But today it's you. Okay. So what are we talking about on today's show?
I think today we're talking about China's shifting stance on cryptos and will the ban be lifted and will that create a Bitcoin bull? What do you think about that?
I don't know. We'll see in a minute.
And a few other things. We're going to talk about how Dubai possibly wants to build a Bitcoin hotel. What else are we talking about? I think you really want to talk about the crypto skeptic Peter Schiff and how he surprises with Bitcoin NFT art collection.
Oh, have I got thoughts on this one? Hey, one other thing, I'm gonna talk quickly about the merch I'm wearing, but make sure you get your Tweeter set up so that you can join the Tweeter space. Lens, quick. We may not have explained that to you, but let the panic set in and jump on Tweeter, and then find our Tweeter space.
I've got this.
You've got this. All right.
I've got this.
Yeah. Okay. Sweet. So today, representing Krypton. I love this Krypton shirt. It's one of my favorites. They've got the best hoodies too. So shout out to our friends at Krypton. If you don't know what Krypton is, go check it out. Pretty amazing. Some incredibly intelligent people that are building really a next generation platform for swapping. It's unbelievable. I want to call it an AMM. It's kind of like an AMM, sort of. But they've changed a lot of the fundamentals of how it functions. Pretty awesome. Anyways, with that, it is mid-70 episodes somewhere, so we will get right into it. I don't think that song is ever going to get old.
No.
I can always groove to it.
I was totally jamming the entire time.
I know, right? Okay. So we are now live on Tweeter Spaces. Lindsay, you have to request to speak.
Okay.
And then turn your volume all the way down, but leave your mic open so that it can just hear what we're saying. But we don't hear me in the background. Anyways, okay. So slight technical difficulties. I'm going to say chalking it up there the same as the Ron DeSantis presidential announcement. We broke the internet. That's why we're having problems with technical difficulties this morning. Okay, Linz, are you good? Are you ready to go?
I am ready to go. It's just that I can't get my app notifications to do this. I am so sorry.
No, it's all good. All right. Well, while you're working on that, I will tee up the first thing we're going to talk about, and that is China's crypto ban. Is it possible that it's going to spark the next bull run being lifted? So that the ban being lifted, is that going to spark the next bull run? I mean, this is like, for as long as I've been paying attention to the space, this is like a continuous narrative. China bans crypto. China doesn't ban crypto. Is China going to ban crypto? It's like the perpetual China FUD. And now, after Kiara and I have been talking a lot about, their aspirations for a CBDC and some of their the rural tests for using a CBDC. exclusively in an area and how that might work. Obviously, they're opening up to crypto as an asset class and trying to find ways to allow it. And I think they're finding that their population is just using it regardless of whether they want them to or not. So if they allow it in certain ways, then they can maintain the control that they want. So that's what I think is happening. As of, I believe, June 1st, Hong Kong is offering crypto brokerage licenses, which is really interesting. And I think another step, it's obviously not quite China, but it's slightly arm's length from China. So that's interesting. Anyways, we'll have to see if this sparks the next bull run. I'm not sure that I'm 100% convinced of that. What are you thinking? Where are you at on this one?
I absolutely think that's going to spark the next bull run, 100%. I mean, it shows as soon as they banned it, I mean, the Bitcoin mining went down like something like 70%. And then people found a way around it and just did it anyways. But yeah, absolutely. I think
So
as soon as there is a way, they will go. We have the mass adoption, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think another thing that was kind of interesting when they banned mining not that long ago, there was like this mass exodus from China. They were selling all their equipment. They're trying to move to different jurisdictions and so on. I don't know this with certainty, but I would assume that they may have felt some pain through some of that value leaving the country. We'll have to wait and see. What else did we find on this? There's a couple articles. The next one I think was Elon. Oh, that's what it was. So Elon and CZ, what did they have to say?
I think basically Elon said, I don't know, he was super against this. He thought it wasn't gonna. He basically said that Bitcoin is gonna die, or something like that. I have to find the exact.
Yeah, I don't have the exact quote in front of me either. I think Elon, I would be surprised if he said Bitcoin's going to die, because Elon's been a fairly strong proponent of decentralization.
He said he was pretty fuddy on it. He basically said that Biden administration was going to kill Bitcoin. Yes. Something to the, not that Bitcoin was going to die. I mean, Bitcoin's already died 400 plus times since. Anytime that I buy it, it's going to die. And then it does momentarily.
Absolutely. Anyways, so we'll have to see. I mean, Musk has been a fairly big proponent of decentralization, and obviously, Dogecoin, which is kind of hilarious and ridiculous. But I mean, Tesla was one of the first major brands to accept Bitcoin. Then they stopped accepting Bitcoin because I think they had too much exchange risk that they were trying to manage because Bitcoin was highly volatile at the time. Not sure what they're going to do now going forward with Bitcoin, but anyways, we can probably chalk it up to, once more and more adoption happens, I think Elon's going to be a good supporter. CZ, of course, is hugely bullish on China, mainly because finance while he lived in China and in Canada, but he lives in neither now. He lives in Dubai because of all the regulatory and governmental issues that they had. But CZ obviously has a lot to gain from this. If it's legal, then they can move back into China. That's a huge market that has currently been unavailable to exchanges. The most likely exchange to move into China is probably Binance. They're the largest, obviously, is probably relevant in China also as this changes, although they just offshored everything because of pressures from the Chinese government not that long ago. Anyways, we'll have to see what happens. I think all in all, it's not going to be net bad for the space. I'm just not sure if it's going to be a net positive. Yeah, I don't think it's going to spark a bull run, but I do think that there's definitely some speculation around it. Go ahead.
Okay, cool. No, I was actually going to totally digress and just see what you thought about what DeSantis thinks about that.
Oh, my friend DeSantis, you're going there?
I have to. I know that's probably not part of what we were talking about, but he warns the Biden administration could kill Bitcoin as well. So kind of surprising.
Yeah, this is important, pretty important, I think. Okay, so I had a whole bunch of notes on this. I was going to talk. Hey, first, let's do a quick shout out. I see Catherine in the audience, Mazan, Elaine. Thank you guys for joining. Catherine, it's good to see you again. I guess at least see that you're here. I can't see you physically, but welcome. Anyways, okay, so DeSantis comes on Twitter Spaces with Elon, does his presidential announcement. And I think what's pretty interesting is the last, say, 5 to 10 minutes was just about CBDCs, Bitcoin, crypto in general, regulation, et cetera, et cetera. And so I think it was interesting. There's a lot of people in the United States, I'm one of them, that if I could vote, which I can't yet, but if I could vote here, I would be a single issue voter at the moment. I think the risk is now quite outsized and existential, that if we don't find a way to start supporting this in a greater fashion in America, we're potentially going to miss the boat. Kara and I talk about this all the time, obviously, Linz, and I'm sure you've heard a lot about it, but a lot more of these presidential candidates, which is very interesting. This is the first election kind of cycle that we've actually seen a meaningful discourse about crypto and how blockchain should be regulated in America and so on. DeSantis has been 1,000% opposed to a CBDC for the same reasons that I am. And that is, I think there's just too much opportunity for government overreach. And I talk about this a lot, the slippery slope, I think, to me just seems like, oh yeah, CBD sounds great now. And then slowly but surely they keep adding straws to the camel's back, which is kind of what happened during COVID and all these other times when government gets outsized control. They can't help but take it. So I'm concerned about that. DeSantis is also concerned about that. But what he did say is that, Bitcoin is decentralized. There should be nothing preventing people entirely from owning these assets and participating. He's a proponent of regulation, which I think we all are at this point. Like it's not going to be non-regulated. Let's just figure out what the regulation is and deal with it. Yeah. And he's been critical of Biden. Have you been following the U.S. kind of approach to this at all, Linz?
I have, yeah. I'm just wondering what like the mass population thinks about CBDCs. Like, what's the sentiment on that? Do they think that if there are CBDCs that, it kind of goes against the essence of DeFi? Or do they think, like, maybe they will feel more secure, so there'll be more adoption of cryptocurrencies?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple ways to look at it. That's a good point, actually. But there's a couple ways to look at it. I mean, stable coins exist already, but they're managed by third parties. So it's still a way indirectly that their monetary policy, even if stable coins were super commonly used, they're worth 1-to-1. Like $1 is worth
like
$1.
USDC.
Yeah. And so for that reason, simply finding a way to regulate stable coins in many of the jurisdictions could allow for 24-hour foreign exchange, could allow for intergovernmental transfers, simple swaps, keeping the exchange rate cost down as low as humanly possible relative to what we currently do with Forex, which is totally different. But I don't know anybody that is currently in the space that thinks the CBDC is a good idea. Everybody that I know has a very similar sentiment to me, and that is a CBDC would just essentially ruin innovation in many ways if it became pervasive enough, because then they're going to put in rules where everything has to settle in the CBDC somewhere, and there's going to be all this reporting nonsense, and before you know it, it's going to be exactly the same as finance is right now, with a lot of control in centralized parties, with a lot of gatekeeping and intermediaries, because there will only be certain people that can deal in the CBDC. It'll be exactly like the banking system. The incumbents will then benefit. I don't know a single person building in the space that thinks CBDCs are a good idea. So guess we'll see. I'm gonna kick and scream.
Super funny on the CBDCs. Gotcha.
I'm super funny on the CBDCs. And I will complain and kick and scream and bang on the drum as long as I have a venue. And so no one gave me a venue, so we created one.
Perfect.
Of our own. Created a venue where I can.
I will be there banging the drums with you, because I just really want to protect people's ability to have autonomy and create an ability to take control of their finances.
Yeah.
Separate from government for once, but not
Well,
completely separate. I get that there has to be some sort of regulation. There just will be. So,
yeah, I think,
yeah.
I mean, it'll be important for global access and, you know, for just providing meaningful access to financial products that for so long have been, you know, somewhat gated off to the top, you know, half of 1% who's a Goldman private client or whatever. But all of that being said, I think, you know, it's a net benefit for society if we get rid of a lot of the unnecessary costs and bureaucracy and middlemen and gatekeepers and rent-seeking behavior, which is prolific in traditional finance, right? So,
you know, take a little bit away from the government being able to just control inflation as well, in a sense.
Hopefully. Let's see if we can control inflation. Who knows? Anyway,
you know, deflation.
Okay.
Currency. Yeah.
Do you want to set this one up? Bitcoin mortgages.
Yes. Super excited about this.
Are you buying your next house with Bitcoin?
I absolutely would, but it's at what percent collateralization would you choose? That's really the question. I heard it can be super risky because of how crazy Bitcoin is. So
yeah. So this is an interesting one. I think it's either 100% collateralization ratio or 200%. Some of the chat. Go ahead.
I was just going to say some of the people that have done it have, because Bitcoin dropped so badly so quickly and then came back up 3 days later, the banks liquidated their Bitcoin. So they lost it. So the guys that have already had experience with this are saying maybe 4 times collateralization. Like they just, unless there's like a grace period, which they don't really have with the banks right now, giving these mortgages.
Yeah. I mean, the liquidity in Bitcoin relative to any other cryptocurrency is very high, but relative to many other major assets is quite low. Yeah. And so the way that the oracles and the transactions happen and the applications for Bitcoin and how that's reported, the movement is violent relative to many other. It is. It can move multiple tens of percentages a day. And that's nothing. None of us are alarmed by that.
No,
well, I mean, we're alarmed, but it happens.
But if you have your Bitcoin, you know, staked to buy your house, and then basically it can liquidate while you're sleeping. And so it's super stressful. You have to constantly watch it to make sure it never gets even close to that threshold, or else you're adding in more Bitcoin.
Yeah. So the theory is ideally you want to have like way beyond your 100%. That's the minimum. You have to have the amount of the mortgage collateralized by your Bitcoin. If you put double the Bitcoin in there, then the price of Bitcoin can go down by 50% before you get liquidated. The problem is when you get liquidated, they cover your assets. Now you own your house free and clear. So your house didn't get sold, unless they, you know, have a loss of assets somehow or insolvency somehow. Then they have a claim to your title as a creditor. But that's also not a super simple and straightforward process. So it'll be interesting to see how this evolves. But every state in the United States has different foreclosure policies and processes, and so foreclosing because of, you know, a debt issue like this is not simple. These lenders, although they're generally covered by collateralization in terms of like the risk of insolvency, there will be edge cases, I think, where they couldn't liquidate fast enough. The market moved too quick. They lost some money and they have to start pursuing based on the, you know, the value in the home. And that's a mess too. Imagine the market goes against you. Not only do you, you know, no longer have a loan, all of your Bitcoin has been sold, arguably at a low price. That's usually what happens. The price dumps and then it liquidates. So now you've sold potentially at the bottom, which you clearly don't want to do. And and you could have a foreclosure on your house. So, I mean, this is a cool concept. I think being able to borrow against and collateralize real world assets is interesting. I'm just not sure we're there yet. I'm not sure we have the infrastructure.
Do you
Right.
think that this opens up access to the younger generations? Because right now, to buy a home, there's a massive barrier to entry. The value of our money is just not as valuable as it used to be per dollar. So, we have to find ways to inflate the value of our money, and maybe that is cryptocurrency. Does this potentially open up more access to younger people? Yes or no?
I mean, I think so in some ways, because there's probably a younger demographic that owns some Bitcoin. I think generally speaking, the youngest demographic is trying to get rich quick. So they're not usually buying Bitcoin and ETH in smaller quantities on a regular basis and just holding it for the long term. They're generally buying shit coins, meme coins, NFTs, and trying to turn 1,000 into 1,000,000, as fast as they can, which unfortunately is more detrimental than it does good, I think, in the long run. But we'll have to see. It could provide access in a way that the good thing is that you're not going through this crazy underwriting. If you have the Bitcoin, then you have the property, and in a perfect way, you don't have to in a perfect world, you don't have to liquidate your crypto assets, but you're getting cash out against it. You can make payments on it. And at some point down the road, you didn't have to go through all the underwriting and the taxation and the legal and all this other nonsense. And you've just borrowed against your existing assets, which can be quite attractive. So I'm not super fuddy on the concept as a whole. I just don't know if, as a space, we have the infrastructure to support it entirely at this point. But we shall see. Kind of, I suppose, flowing from that a little bit is just how to insure crypto at the moment. It's incredibly difficult with all of the different risk vectors now. I saw a report somewhere that said something like 200. Where is that? Hold on, make sure I don't misquote that. Maybe
you're talking about like insuring crypto companies and insuring personalized crypto investments.
Yeah, the article said something like there's 2,000 variables across 20 risk areas is currently what they have to assess for one protocol. 2,000 variables, 20 risk parameters. That's kind of insane. I mean, to put that in perspective, you're looking at orders of magnitude more variables than in most other insurable asset classes. So it's kind of overwhelming. And it's such a new market and there's not a lot of data that it's really hard to insure. I mean, we've been looking for insurance to insure our entire protocols for years. And the cost, like the only way that they can support that with the amount of risk that's there and the unknown unknowns is by either significantly limiting their exposure, which doesn't do us any good, or by charging insane bloody fees. So, yeah, anyways, all good. We will figure that out as time goes on. Hopefully the insurers, actuaries get some better data and better things to think about. Okay, we are going to skip over Ethereum's Shanghai upgrade. We'll talk about that maybe tomorrow in terms of crypto's forensic capabilities, why I think that's important and valuable. Okay, next, let's talk about, where is he?
While you're doing that, I think it's good to say also that in the first quarter of 2023, I think it's crypto hacks and security breaches are down like 70%. So
in the amount, in like the raw number, or in the amount of dollars exploited?
I think in the amount of dollars exploited, I'd have to find it exactly, but that was what that article stated, is that first quarter we're down like 70% hacks for now.
Yeah, in the raw value, I think part of that is the value of crypto is down 70%. Or significantly more. So it could be the same amount of exploits, just less value. That's a pessimistic way to approach it. I think
very funny of you.
I think all in all, though, the forensic capabilities, which I suppose we can talk about, fine. The forensic capabilities in crypto, in particular, even after the Shanghai upgrade, but even prior to that, are advancing at an incredible rate. And so I was talking about this the other day on the pod, I think. that, I mean, anybody that believes they're anonymous is probably lying to themselves in this space currently. It's very, very rare. We're seeing a lot more white hat activity, at least on our protocols, people trying to claim bug bounties and all this other shit. Much greater than we've seen in the past. Most of the bounties don't exist or aren't actually issues, but the point is we're seeing a lot more activity from white hats, because I think the black hat approach, like actually exploiting protocols, is becoming increasingly more difficult to actually get any profit out in the end. And we've seen that, some fairly notable exploits of the funds have been returned and so on, because I think they realized it's not that simple to get away with it. So all of that is a good thing. Part of it could be asset values are down, but I guess we'll see. Okay. Last and certainly not least, I don't even have banners for it, but we're going to talk about it anyways. Our friend, Peter Schiff, the gold bug, who has been like probably on the receiving end of a whole bunch of crypto memes for like the last decade at least. He has probably been one of the more well-known. He's an economist. He lives in Puerto Rico most of the time. He's American. And I've watched a ton of his videos. He's all about gold. He thinks gold is the only, meaningful investment asset. He thinks no matter what, whether gold is going up or gold is going down, Peter Schiff is all about gold and silver and precious metals. That's it. And so he's been a huge skeptic of Bitcoin forever. And just a couple of days ago, he announced that he is releasing an NFT art project on Bitcoin with ordinals and some other stuff, which I think is freaking hilarious. And so it reminds me kind of Trump. So Trump has always been, if you look at what Trump said in 2019, he said, crypto's probably has no value. It's not living up to the promise. It's probably not going to exist forever. It has no future, yada, yada. And then in 2021, I think, 2021, Trump releases his Trump NFTs. It might be 22. Can't remember. He releases his Trump NFTs and raised like $15 million or some nonsense. I think it's hilarious that these guys are such opportunists, including Trump. And I'm marginally a Trump supporter in general, but I think that was like weak sauce. If you're going to come out and be so opposed to something and blind to its benefits, and then one day just completely 180 because you want to make money off it, Schiff and Trump, kind of ridiculous. Although Schiff did say he still doesn't believe in Bitcoin. He's still not a Bitcoiner. He just wanted to share his art, and this is the best way to do it, which I think is hilarious. So shout out to Peter Schiff. I'd love to have a conversation with him about this. Might be a couple hundred more episodes before we get to the viewership to get Peter Schiff on, but let's tag him on this video.
Let's do that.
Maybe we'll get a response from the gold bug himself. Anyways, all right, Lindsay, it's been a blast. Thank you a ton. We had some technical difficulties, I think, with our Twitter Spaces today. But that's okay.
That was on me, to be fair, and I'm sorry, but
don't be sorry. I think we just had an issue with your mic working, so it's going to be a very one-sided conversation on Twitter. Anyways, thanks a ton. Thanks
I really
for joining.
Appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
We will have you back many times in the future, I'm sure. Everybody like, subscribe, smash those buttons, help, share the stream. Again, every day, Monday to Friday, 12:30 Eastern, we are here making sure that we can talk you off the ledge when you have FOMO and bring you back from jumping off that same ledge when you hear too much FUD. We're trying to, dispel some of the myths, get rid of some of the nonsense in the headlines. With that, I bid you a great day. Go FUD yourself, Lindsay.
Go FUD yourself, JD.